business looks like right here.
What's up, y'all? All right, as a business owner, I get asked a lot of common questions, and the number one question I get asked is, how do you start an apparel company? So I want to go through with you guys and talk about how we got started and kind of give you some insights to maybe how you could start your business. All right, so first thing is going to be establish your passions. What are you passionate about? Because when you're not passionate about something, it's hard to sink your teeth into it, want to do it every day, because when you have a small business or start a company, it is literally an everyday grind, 24/7. You have to live and breathe it. And so I think if you don't have a passionate thing that you're sinking everything into, it becomes really tough. It becomes a grind that you don't want to keep doing. So having your passion and figuring out why are you creating this is super, super important. So to relate it back to me, my passion was always outdoors, hunting, fishing, all that good stuff, having fun with friends, and I love to rock old school camo, buy old ammo box type caps, like Federal cartridge caps, and I was buying that kind of stuff so I could fit my vibe of loving the outdoors. And it quickly became, why am I still buying that stuff when I can make it? And so that's really when the idea sparked my head of creating an outdoor lifestyle apparel company that fit what I was already doing. And so after I discovered this was my passion, I started looking out there to see, was there something like this brand out there in the market? I didn't do a lot of discovering, so I felt like this was our chance to really disrupt and be a new brand because there were market gaps. And what I mean by market gaps is there wasn't something out there that exactly was doing what I was looking for. So like me looking for old school camo caps or products or even just t-shirts that fit our vibe, there wasn't a lot of that out there, or at least I was able to find. And so I'd say next steps are gonna be to get all the logistics done of like opening up a bank account. That way you can keep your personal money separate than your business money. Even though the personal money is going into the business money, you wanna be able to keep that separate for profitability, taxes, those kinds of things. Starting an LLC, which is a limited liability company. That way you can have a business to be able to pay taxes and again, keep it separate from your personal, which is super important. So LLC, DBA, which is you're doing business as of when you discover the name for your company, that's what's gonna be the DBA. Starting a business plan as well, it's super important. There are a lot of online tools out there that can help you fill out, like if your brand was a car, what car it would be, because it's just discovery of who your brand is, who your customer is, and deciding how you're going to take your product to market. So for us, establishing a name was the next priority. And we actually went with the brand name Kinsman when we very first started because we wanted something that meant family. We tried to get it trademarked. It actually got blocked, which is a big setback for us because it costs money to do all those things. And it really made us realize, hey, let's take a step back, slow down, and make sure we get something trademarked that is not out there, that's not going to be confusing for the customer. And it also gave us the opportunity to create something much more unique like Burlebo, because when you hear that, you say, what is that? I'm interested. So that was one of our first step backs and our first realizations of getting something trademarked is super important because we are going to own that and somebody else can't use a similar or very close name. All right, so once you have your name locked down, the next step is going to be to get all your socials locked in as well. Instagram, TikTok, everything you're going to want to use, as well as buy your website. That way you're not having to worry about somebody else taking that. And then you're going to want to get your logo set up as well, because you want your logo and your brand name to be interchangeable, to mean the exact same thing. That way, if your brand name is not on it, but the logo is, there's a direct correlation to your brand. So once you have all that set up, for us, the next step was to go to market. We didn't have anybody going to burlebo.com. We knew nothing about Google advertising, Facebook advertising, any of that. It was just build face. And so the way we did that was just putting our feet on the ground and getting out there, going to as many markets as we could, because there's a lot of apparel trade shows. So for us, we're in Austin, Texas. So we went to Dallas, Texas for the apparel show, Dallas, Texas for the men's show, Dallas gift for the gift show, and we did the same thing in Atlanta, Charlotte as well. Charlotte, North Carolina is actually where we got our start. I think it was August 15th in 2015 was where we first launched. So it's going to as many shows as possible. To get in front of people, you really just have to put yourself out there. I know it's super tough and uncomfortable at times, and I'm not always the best at it, but when you're at market, you're there to meet people, so you have to put your best foot forward and say, hey, I know you never heard about us. Please take a second to check out our line, because that's what people are doing. They're at market to shop, and that's really the best place to meet people, is going to trade shows and just getting your face out there. And the great thing about it is there are trade shows for everything. If you're in the tech industry, if you're in the cleaning supplies industry, if you're in the tool industry, literally whatever it is, you just have to get out there and meet people and get your name out there, get your feet on the floor and just go. So that's the beautiful thing, is there are trade shows for literally everything. And really before you go to market, you gotta have products to sell, because you have to have samples, number one, and you have to have something to sell. So before you even go to market, really the next step after you get your brand figured out, logo, all that stuff, you need to start designing and coming up with stuff. So what we did is we contracted a graphic designer, because we couldn't afford to pay anybody. It was literally just myself and my wife who helped, but she had her full-time job as well. So it was contracting to get artwork made. I would have a design in mind of like a duck flying over water, and I would pay somebody $250, $300 to help us get that put into artwork form. Then what we would do is we'd send it to a local printer here just down the road, and we would buy Comfort Colors t-shirts. That's what we started with, was Comfort Colors t-shirts, because we had to start somewhere. You don't just start making head-to-toe apparel off the jump. You literally have to start with as small of a step as possible, which was buying Hanes t-shirts, cutting the tags out. My wife's grandmother would sew them in to say Burlebo, so it looked like you got them from us, and then I would take them to the screen printer in San Marcos and get the artwork printed. So that was how it always started, was just taking small steps, and then I would get these samples and I would take them to market. And what we would do is we would just get samples to where we could go to market, know the popularity of an item. Back then we were selling like 40 units to like 300 units of a design, not a ton. So we would at least know, okay, this one's gonna do better, because cash flow is super important for a small business or starting out. So we would know, okay, this is gonna do super well, let's do like 300 units, or this is not gonna do that great, let's do like half of that. So it really helped us know the popularity of an item, of having a sample made, taking it to a market or a trade show where people are walking around for their store to buy, and then we'd say, okay, this one didn't sell very much, let's not even do it, or just do a small amount. And I think the point of that is you can just start small. Again, whether it's an apparel company or a tool company, you gotta have something to show and sell, which is really important. We'll go to market nowadays, 8 years later, without a sample, and it'll sell horribly just because we're waiting on samples and we're working so far ahead. But if we don't have something to show, it's really hard to sell it, because the customers need to know what they're gonna expect when you ship it to them. So having a sample made is really, very important regardless of what you're doing. And something to remember when you're starting a small business is your margins are not gonna be that great. For us, we were buying Comfort Colors t-shirts off of a third party, so we were already kind of spending a lot of money there. We were sewing in our own tags, so we had to buy those tags, as well as we had to sew the actual tag into it. So we had to buy the size tag and sew it in. If I was lucky enough, my mother's grandmother would sew them in, and if I wasn't, I had to take them to a facility. So our margins weren't that great in the beginning, which a lot of small businesses aren't, but you just have to keep working and grinding and gaining the clientele to where you can make that next jump to either sourcing your own apparel or streamlining whatever you're creating to give you better margin. So once you have all that established, that's gonna be your foundation, and now it's just time to build. You need to grow, get credibility, because if people don't know you or know your product, it's hard to buy something from you, because they need to know it's gonna last, it's gonna hold up, you're gonna take care of them if they have an issue, all that kind of stuff. So now is just a time to grow and build as much as you can. Start learning, gain a community. You need to learn everything you can about your customer, who your customer is. That way, if you're gonna start doing paid advertising, you really need to know who you're targeting and who you're making your product for. So right now, you get all that established. Now's your time to just hit the gas and go and build it up as much as you can. All right, funny story to cap this off. I remember being in this facility that cut our tags when my mother's grandma couldn't do it, and just laying these things out, just cut, would pass them off, and they would sew them, and I'm just in there literally cutting so many t-shirts, making sure, okay, these are smalls, and then they would sew in the smalls, because believe it or not, when you're cutting tags off, you do get things mixed up. So we would have smalls cut and mediums get put in, and then either have to redo them or not catch them at all. So when you're a small business, you just have to be prepared that you're gonna have to grind, things are gonna happen, you're gonna have mistakes, you're gonna have lots of setbacks, but it's okay, just keep inching forward, it's gonna be worth it, I promise you. This is the most amazing journey we've ever been on. We feel like we're still starting, and we hope it inspires you to do the same.